All right, hi everybody. Welcome back, mummies and daddies. This week we have an amazing guest together with us. Now, this is the thing. Right now, during this recording, we are having this kind of a COVID-19 emergency lockdown where people are asked to stay at home, to not move around, and this is for the safety of not having this virus be more contagious with people around us. So people are asked to stay at home. Now, it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. Now, for a lot of parents out there, not only do you need to take care of your job, your occupation, your career, you also have to take care of your family. And when we talk about family, we talk about not just your husbands or wives, it's also your kids. Oh, I said wives as if there's more than one wife. Okay, I'm talking about the kids. And a lot of times, I get this question a lot. People are asking, it's like, how do I control these people? Why are they so up the wall? They're running me crazy. And then sometimes I know, sometimes a lot of parents, they have daydreams of imagining if they can have their kids being very cooperative, very calm, being able to listen to their parents. And it happens for some family, but not for all. And the question is, how do you actually help your children become like that, or even start this journey to get like that? If you're interested to know how to do it, well, you're in the right video, because today we have an expert that helps families, mothers and fathers, help their children and help themselves get on that direction. So without further ado, let me invite today's amazing guest. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dihan!
Hi,
Hi,
Webster.
Dihan.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I know your time is very, very packed because you do a lot of special sessions and classes with your parents specifically. And thank you for making time out of the day to actually have this recording, because I know a lot of people asking that question. How do I help my little children be good, be able to take care of themselves, being able to do the right things, because I'm losing my sanity right now. So before we start, I think, how about you introduce yourself first, and then we can start the session.
Okay, so yes, my name is Dihan. Yes, there's many D's apostrophes in my name. It's really in my IC. I'm not being totally glamour here. So the first thing to come right off is that I am not a parenting guru. I do not teach parents how to be better parents. This is not where I'm coming from. Okay, obviously I am young and I do not have kids of my own, but the one thing that I do have under my belt is experience dealing with kids and teacher training. And because parents and teachers have to manage kids anyway, and we have the, well, privilege or the opportunity to have gone through teacher training, and parents don't. So I basically transfer my knowledge and my skills that parents would find so helpful and so useful to do it at home, just as how I have with my own kids in the classroom. So that's basically what I do. Yeah.
Just before the recording, we were chatting about this particular topic as well. Like, why do you get involved? And you were talking about something that's very real. The reality that knowledge of how to work with students, like not just one kid, not two kids, not three kids, sometimes a whole classroom of young people. And this set of skills of how to manage them, how to work with them, how to participate with them is a set of skills that is taught to educators such as yourself. And it's like a kept secret within the education stream. And no parents are actually given this opportunity to learn from it, and more importantly, to be able to utilize it in their day-to-day life. And I think over the years, when you've been educating young children, you also take an additional step to also get yourself involved with the parents to help them back at home. And I think because of the overwhelming response, you just decided, like, you know what, parents need your help. You went into the industry. And I'm so glad that you do that, because right now so many parents need this set of skills, this set of knowledge, so that they can actually move forward more effectively, more productively, and also with better sanity as well. All right. So I would like to start off with this particular thing. Right now, so many parents have their kids at home, and some of them are acting out. Now, let's specifically focus on children at a certain age, because like we discussed earlier on, certain kids that are below teenage levels, before the hormonal things kicks in, they have a different set of needs, different set of wants, and with hormonal type, it's also a different set of things. So for this week's video, let's focus more on below teenagers. That means 12 years old and below. Okay, is that all right?
Awesome.
Perfect. So for those 12 and below, I mean, like, they're spending so much time at home, there's so much energy. What's your experience with that? What are the complaints that you normally get from parents, and what would you think is the best way to deal with this?
Okay. Specifically in the MCO context, or the CB, wherever you're from, a lot of them are having online learning right now.
Mm.
And with the online learning, it also depends whether do they really have a teacher on the other side of the Zoom, or is it a pre-recorded video of the teacher or some video, or is it just tasks and homework being sent in? It usually three different kind of like modes of home-based learning. It really depends on the school, the teacher, whichever they had adopted home-based learning. With the online learning, a lot of parents are finding it hard to adjust. How do I make sure that my kids stay in front of the computer and I can do my own work also? But then with the ones where they have only pre-recorded videos coming in with no real life interaction, how can I make sure that my kids are actually watching what they are supposed to, rather than if I look away, they're on PUBG or they're on Roblox or they are on YouTube.
Which they are very savvy
Correct. And the third thing is, if they are only receiving all like assignments, then the problem would be once they are done, then they have nothing else to do, and outdoors are taken away from them. So these three different home-based learning kind of issues are presenting very different challenges.
Yep.
But mostly what the parents are feeling on their end is, I just want to be able to work from home without being distracted, without needing to feel like I need to check on them for every single time, without needing to feel that I need to sit next to them, guide them through subjects that I don't have knowledge about anymore. And like and on top of that, they have to stay on top of every other thing like chores and all sorts of things.
The whole thing of life. Everything.
The whole thing of life, right? Yeah. So that's usually the problem that they're facing in the context of MCO. It really kind of usually revolves around the three things here. Then later on, they kind of just like, okay, if this is manageable somehow, if they somehow already managed it, then comes, because everybody's contained in such a confined space, how do we not get on each other's nerves? How do we not push each other's buttons? Because you don't necessarily have me time, or at least for the parents. And another kind of like very unfortunate but very real thing is most mothers are finding themselves doing a lot more than they should, but they think they have to, because usually the fathers will have to be in this current state of MCO, trying to find ways to bring more money in because of the state of the economy. So the fathers, so it will look something like, so I had a parent, I mean many parents who said like, I asked them one question, right? And then they type in and then they tell me all sorts of things. I just ask them one thing: how are you coping? Right? And I said, I'm not even coping. I'm just trying to keep afloat. I'm just trying to not die. I'm not even surviving. I'm just like trying to keep it all together. I can't, and then they're saying like, I need to do chores, I need to do cleaning, I need to do this, I need to do that, and then the siblings are, always bickering each other, and I need to help the kids with the homework, and then I come, because I work with parents a lot, right? So does your spouse feel the same way too? And then comes like, in all honesty, they don't think that it's a real problem. They don't see it and feel it as much, because they are on the other side, in the room, trying to bring in money. So they are doing their part, but it's also very challenging on my end. But what to do? I have to do. Everybody also the same state, and it is the what to do, both in I have to kind of mindset that makes it very heartbreaking. That they feel that they have to do it all alone, which is not true, right? And moving forward, then I ask, what's the biggest piece that would help you? And it's usually not the children. It's usually, if only my spouse can help me out, I will take so much of a breather. Yeah. So they rather not be alone in this. They rather, like, you want to suffer, you suffer together lah, you know. They rather want to do that. And then if you suffer together long enough, you're like, I look at you look at me, and you don't know, then only they want to try to find help and get help. Because right now what's happening, because there's no me time amongst the parents, they are logging on to Facebook or seeing things on their phones in the wee hours after the kids are put to bed. And that's where usually my session starts. When the kids are put to bed, that's where only I start to actually work with them.
Okay.
You know? And it's during that time, then only they're able to say, okay, I need this help. Yeah, come to think of it, I also need that. But because they're trying to plug holes and put out fires every day, when they kind of had the time, like, okay, come to think of it, yeah, you know, actually, you know, and then they revert back to the mindset of, actually, I shouldn't even be complaining so much. Other people are better, you know, are worse off. And then they kind of just, it's not accepting where they are, you know, they kind of just surrendered, you know. And to me, I feel like, I can help you, but I can't help you unless you ask for it. And most of the time, when I have these talks with them, it's just them having an outlet to say what's going on, and that feels so good already for them. Like, this is what I'm going through. That's one. But then after that comes, okay, what am I gonna do?
How to not let this happen again? So
it
sounds so true. It's so familiar, because I hear this a lot of times when the situation happens at that moment. Many parents have also shared with me that they just let it go. They just learn to accept that is the reality. They just accept that that's the norm. And then like you mentioned, when they have personal space, when they have personal time, when they have the opportunity to reflect and think back, it's like, maybe I should not have done that, or maybe I could have done it like this. And in many big ways, that's the reality, because a lot of times we are kind of like nurtured to be reacting that way. A lot of parents, it's not that they want that to happen or they want to react that way. It's just that they've accepted to be acting like that. So it's kind of like what they call as reflex. It's like it's something that they feel like they have no control over. But this is the reality. They can learn to make it something that you can control. It's kind of like swimming. It's like if you never learn how to swim, most probably you'll drown. But once you develop those muscles, and when you do need it, it's just that. It will just come up, and it'll become like second nature. Of course, the earlier stages, number one, you have to allow yourself to kind of like explore. It's like, hey, you know what? I need to develop this set of muscles, these muscles that I've never used before. And the reality is this: to become a parent is one of the hardest jobs on earth. To be able to handle young people is one of the most difficult challenges to actually master. And the problem is, right, when your kids come to life, it never comes with a manual. This is a joke that I think is really good. It's like you buy a TV, you get a manual how to use the TV. You buy a computer, you get a manual how to work the computer. But when you get your baby, it doesn't come with a manual. And what's even worse is, as your baby is developing, at different stages of that development requires different sets of skills, different set of understanding, different set of approach. And I think that's where you come in, because many parents, number one is when they finally allow themselves to understand that, hey, you know what, this should not be the way. I need to improve the situation. And they reach out to you and it's like, okay, teacher Dihan, what do I need to do now? What would your advice be? How would you actually work them through the process? Because you work in a very unique way, and I think a lot of people want to explore that.
Right. So usually when I talk to them, first and foremost, I ask them, what results do they want to see? And they're so quick to think, oh, what results do I want to see in the kids? And I always have to say, okay, if we were to have this conversation 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and look back at all that has happened, right? What has to happen to you for you to feel that you are really happy with your own progress? What has to happen to you so that you know that you're happy with your progress? And it always kind of stumps them a bit. Well, now not about the kids. Now I have to think about me. And it's a shift that they have to make, because I'm talking to you, not the kid. I want to know what you want. I want to know what you want for yourself in relation to the kid, but not what you want for the kid. So then the big thing comes. It's not about them behaving anymore. So if I were to ask what results you want to see in your kid, then they will say, I want them to behave. I want them. But now, because the question is, what do you want to see in yourself? Then they say, I want to be able to control my temper.
Wow.
I'm a lot more even-tempered with other kids, but not mine. The other thing is, I want to be able to not get so triggered, so upset so easily. And I want to be able to not feel guilty after I discipline them. So it's a very different set of answers, what I want for the kids, what I don't want what I don't want to see in the kids is now I want to feel this for myself. And so what I'm hearing in return is, okay, in my very teacher brain, right, I say, oh, so you want to learn how to self-regulate, manage your emotions. So what you want to learn is to notice what are your triggers so that you can prevent that from happening, make good choices. So you want to be able to feel more empowered by the decisions that you make rather than feel guilty. So I feel like, these three skills, life skills, are totally teachable, totally transferable. And chances are, because they're struggling with these skills, the parents are struggling with these skills, the kids are going to struggle with these skills as well, because parents who cannot regulate themselves or get upset very easily, chances are their kids are also getting upset very easily, because they model what they see, they model what they hear. And I've always been told, right, as a teacher, like, because you're a teacher, right, you have to be at your utmost best. Everything you do and everything you say is being heard and seen. Because you're a teacher, you handle kids. And I'm thinking here, say, hello, parents also manage kids. Shouldn't not then the same standards be applied to parents as well, right? And the ironic thing here is parents are the one who's telling me that. Sometimes it's funny that way. And it's kind of like, okay, reminder, if this is what you expect of me because I handle children, hey, you're handling children too, I will have the same expectations onto you as well. So let's start working on you so that you can work with your kid and on your kid around these skills that I'm transferring to you. So it's a skill that never leaves you, but it's a skill that you can always practice and re-practice and re-practice. And even if you screw up, right, the wonderful, beautiful thing about this is the next time it happens, which is very, very likely to happen again, you get to choose, hello, do I want to execute and apply this thing that I just learned, or do I want to go back to my old self? And I always tell the parents, if you go back to your old self, it's fine, because there'll be another time for you to try and try and try. Please don't beat yourself up. And because they're so used to beating themselves up, because culturally and all that, right? And when the child makes a mistake, what do? Hey, I already told you before. Hey, you already know this. How come? They are just as hard on the kids
as they are on
how
themselves.
They are. Yeah. So
it's very powerful.
Yeah.
Because it reminds me of something that I experienced myself. I was working with one particular family, and this family is quite well-to-do, and they are in the habit where the idea is money can solve everything. And to the point where they invested in coaching with me, where they send the kids over thinking that I will fix their kids and everything will be all dandy after that, which was partially true, because the kids definitely, this is the beautiful thing, young children doesn't want to be bad. They don't want to be evil. They don't want to be hurtful or anything negative. They want to be good. They want to be positive. They want to be winners themselves. The only problem is, right, sometimes they just don't know how to do it in front of people, in front of mommy and daddy. They are role models. And even if they are improving, for my case, they were improving in the class, they're improving in their day-to-day results grades, but it did not show at home. And I make it a point that I meet up with the parents as well. Reason why is because I do not want my students to just improve in the classroom. I want them to also improve in their life. Because one of the things that I really envision education to be is not something that they just put it on a piece of paper and that's all. I believe education is kind of like the training ground for them to prepare and set themselves for the real world out there. It's kind of like the gym of life in a classroom. So for me, education, that's what it is. It's a place for them to train. And when I get parents involved, is because they are the real life coaches that helps the children move forward. And there's once I met with one of this amazing successful business owner that has earned a title in Malaysia where it's quite a high level. They call this Tan Sri. Tan Sri is like the almost like the Sir level in the UK. So what happened is, he was complaining, hey, it's like at home not doing their work, blah, 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 blah. And you know, I really listen and I put things down. And then every single thing that he put down, right, it's a total different in class. It's like, never do their work. My class one, they do their work. Never listen to instruction. This one is listening instruction, and even advising people, you know, not a team player at home. No, this one is like a leader in the class. It's like he's the coach to the groups. It's like, I'm like, are we talking about the same person right here? And then it hit me, and this realization came out, which is exactly what you mentioned just now. It's like, parents to me is like a driver of a car. And if you were to have a brand new car and you take this car, you drive, after a week, you realize there's something wrong with the car. You send it to the factory, they give you a brand new car. And after you drive, it's still the same problem that arises. Chances are it's not a defect on the car. It's how you choose to drive. Now, that's the difference here. Like a lot of parents, when I give this, right, their first initial is like, are you saying that I'm a bad driver? I'm not saying you're a bad driver. Maybe the way you learn how to drive was not correct. You see, as a parent, right, you want the best of things for your children. It's just that maybe the strategies, the techniques, the methodology, the understanding may not fit at that point of time.
Yeah.
So that I think that's why parents need to hear a lot from you as well. And maybe you can chime in from that point of view. It's not that parents don't want to help their kids. It's sometimes they just didn't know how.
Yes. And oh gosh, I totally had a point that I had in my head just now, but I don't remember them at all.
Don't worry, it will come back. It will come back.
I'll circle back to that. But the whole driver point thing, okay, I kind of remembered. So a lot of parents, there are some parents, not a lot of parents, but some parents who do come to me, they would say, you know, I sent my kids to this program that's not academic based one, you know, it's motivational, character development, and they're very proud of themselves, you know, because they're not the kiasu parents. And so they say, no, I did this and that, but it fizzled out after that, you know, which only proves to us one thing, that we don't have the environment to support them with the tools that they already got from the program. And they said, so they want to be able to bridge that gap, be able to support the kids, right? So obviously it wasn't another kids program for them to send the kids to again, or a better one so that it doesn't fizzle out, but it's a lot more like, okay, so what do we have to do now? What can we do? You know, why are they having so much success with all of these other people, but not us, right? And the first thing I always look at is the relationship that they have with the kids. And why I say relationship, right? And a lot of parents just kind of turn away from this because they feel, even parents, even my own parents, and even parents who have got kids who are much older, they will always say, it will never in a million years dawn on them that when I was a young parent with young kids, I want to improve my relationship with my kids. It's always the behavior, it's always the discipline. But when I said the following words, it kind of makes sense. And these are the following words, right? Our brain is a very social brain. And what this means is all development develops in the context of social and communication and relationship. So the key to relationship is communication, right? So how's your relationship with the teacher? How's your relationship with your parents, your mom, your dad, your grandfather? That will then be able to show whether the kids are resistant, compliant, collaborative, which is why a lot of you don't need to take my word for this, right? You can just reflect upon your own childhood, our very own childhood. Who are we closer with? Who are we communicating a lot more with? Who do we bond over with? And who do we not? And in that, what kind of behaviors do we find ourselves giving to the other person? Are we kind of giving them a little bit more a hard time? Or are we a little bit more of a, I'll do it because I like you? Or because I'm a student, I like this teacher, I really don't like this subject, but I like this teacher, so I'm at least going to make an effort. Right? So it's all about relationships, because key to relationships is communication. And communication is something that you cannot avoid. So to kind of have like a litmus test of what this relationship is like with your kids, you can think about it, whether most of your communication with your kid, is it very transactional? And what I mean by this is it all about, have you done this? Have you finished this? Why you haven't do this? Have you finished that already? Is it all about things getting done or things not done yet? If you take that away, if we were to solve this problem for you in a way where they will actually do it, let's say, for example, what is there left in the communication? Yeah, anything else? Which cues in a lot of maybe our generation's parents, or maybe, I don't know, the older kind of generations. The way that they interact with their parents is very evident. Have you eaten? Okay, eat more of this. Okay, come more often. What have you been doing? And you just kind of like, it's very, if I ask you, you answer lor, you know? And there's nothing much to kind of laugh about and kid about. And it's a very, I wouldn't say it's very sterile, but I would say it's a very transactional. As long as you're okay, then fine lah, you know, but there's nothing more to talk about already.
It gives the feeling as if like, as long as you're alive, I done my job.
It can come off as that kind of feeling, but not to say that it's wrong, because the generations before us is usually just like, I make sure you're taken care of, then can already one, right? And a lot of these parents that come to me, they say, I understand what they did, but I felt this way and I don't want to give the same thing to my kids. So how? So, and then the so how eventually became an overcompensation. And that overcompensation leads to a lot of, sad to say, pampering, spoiling, and they don't see it, right? It's only after when things get so bad, then they realize, oh my gosh, actually, you know what? I have actually allowed this behavior to happen. Case in point, I've got parents who's got a 10-year-old son who's still sleeping with them.
Wow.
Okay? And that's only because, you know, only son, first of all, I stay with them. I changed nappy a lot easier. Years went by. Oh no, then they don't, the room's not done yet, or they don't even actually have a room. They haven't moved houses yet. They weren't in a very good place yet. And then they finally moved house and but they don't want to. So every other night they come into the room, saying you want to sleep with us first and doze off. And then we're kind of like, oh, okay lah. And then after that, try to put them into the room again, and then maybe have a nightmare, come in, and then, okay, sleep with us again. And it's kind of like every time when they're supposed to be sleeping on their own, we allow, okay lah, come and sleep. Okay. So when parents ask questions, how do I stop, or how do I avoid, right? Or how do I lessen? Insert coming to my bed at night, throwing tantrums, putting things off. It's actually, the real question would then be, because of our reaction of our responses to all of these things happening, then the real question becomes, how do I undo a behavior that I have unconsciously allowed to happen? And that takes time. And because that takes time, a lot of parents then think, we can just do it immediately. Tell me how to do it. I'll do it. But it takes time. That swimming thing that you talked about, you want to develop that muscle, that skill that is second nature for teachers as well. It takes time, right? So that's one of the things that is very key for them to kind of like see things in a very different light. Yeah.
I think the awareness here is definitely growing. You gave very good examples there. And this example, the idea of like, okay, so this needs to be done. The question is, how do I get started? if mummies and daddies out there watching this right now, right, I believe they can relate. They definitely can relate with, like, there are certain issues that they are also facing, certain obstacles that they need to overcome. The hardest part is always the starting part. What would you advise, right, mummies and daddies out there? How can they get themselves started in the right direction to help them move forward?
I would say the first thing is to really get this in your brain. You cannot change anyone but yourself. You can only affect change in other people through your relationship with them. Two things, just two things. Not because I said so, it's a fact of life. But I use it as a foundation in the philosophy that I do things with. But it's a fact of life. We cannot control or change anybody but ourselves.
True, so true.
Having said that, you have to notice how many times you have to notice how many times you kind of tell yourself that your kid could have been different. That if my kid is this, then that. If my kid don't do this, then that thing doesn't happen. It has to start from the self first. Because a very classic example would be one of the parents also did come up to me and said, I watched one of your videos and I've always asked, I'm always asking which videos, okay? So, and then they said the one with this one, and I'm like, okay. And then eventually the bottom line was this. An 8-year-old son was able to tell the mother, I don't like it when you use the word nonsense on me. Point in my teacher brain is, hey, the kid is noticing the trigger point. Number two is actually comfortable enough to be able to tell the mom about it. But these two wouldn't even have happened if the parent didn't give the opportunity for the kid to explain themselves. And because of that, now she has new information, right? She's able to then say, okay, you know what? It was really out of line. I won't use the word nonsense anymore. So who changed here? Mom. Mom changed. It wasn't because it has got nothing to do with the kid needing to change from being so upset, so sensitive, so emotional, talking back. It's got nothing to do with that. It was, actually, I could change. And then my outcome can change. It sounds very dead simple, but sometimes while we're in it, so a lot of the times, a lot of the things are very intellectually understood, understandable. But when it comes down to it, to really like living it, embracing it, it takes layering, of experience for them to finally go, okay. So to get started, have these two pieces of awareness, and then if you want to seek out for help, it's a lot easier. So you don't have that resistance. It's already put down. You're already aware that this is what you have to do. So everything that come along, you're a lot more open-minded and a lot more freed up to actually follow. Yeah.
Something that's quite interesting. Do you think a parent support group, a community of parents, being able to have a platform or a place for them to share their experience? Because sometimes learning on your own personal awareness, and sometimes sharing with individuals within the same group, from your perspective, do you think that's helpful?
Yeah, with very, very strict context and rules though. Because I've been a teacher long enough to know that moms and dads, moms typically, nothing bad. It's just how we're somewhat geared towards talking a lot more. They tell each other a lot of what's going on, but there's a bit too much complaining, too much ranting, that it becomes toxic. That you feel good saying everything out, and you feel good being in the whole misery loves company quote, but then nothing to move forward. Nothing helpful, nothing useful to move forward. If you share quotes and memes and videos about, this is a really good idea, but nothing gets done, it's as a group It's just
Value
a
is
group.
left. Yeah.
It's just a group.
Mm.
A support group, however, would be, yes, you bring out your problems, right? And then you contribute, you accept, and you report.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's how support groups are meant to be like. However, it is very tough to get parents to be actively engaging in all of this because they're already so tired and so overwhelmed with everything as it is already.
Mm.
So to tell them that, oh, now I need to do this, and this again, it's more things added on.
Mm.
And that's only if they have that mindset like, oh, I'm going to do more things now. But if they have a shift of that mindset thinking, actually, it's a thing that I have to do and will mean, and the kind of impact that I will get out of actually doing all this will free up so many other things, it's worth it. So it really does depend on what does it mean to them to be able to invest in something like quite intangible but can be tangible as parenting.
Yep.
So how much are they willing to invest their time or money into this? Because I kid you not, there is a lot of parents out there who have said this many times. So it's not many times, mean not the same parents say it many times, but there are many parents who said the similar things.
Yep.
Raising children is like avoiding cancer. You can imagine how I reacted the first time I hear it. And they kind of just went on and said, well, with avoiding cancer, you kind of do what you can. You eat healthy, sometimes no. You exercise, sometimes no. You know that you should, but sometimes you don't. So you do what you can, not necessarily your best, but you try to do what you can to avoid cancer. So raising kids is kind of like that too, you know you should, but then you don't, and then you kind of feel like, you need to give them this, but then you can't, and then they're with us a lifetime anyway, so
until
I'll put it off later.
Until it finally becomes very toxic, very negative, very bad.
Correct. So it's kind of like a lesson for me during the MCO, right? Is like I need to work out more. I need to be not so sedentary, okay? So I'm like, okay, later. So as horrifying as it was when I hear these parents say this, right? There is truth into it. That because the certainty and the comfort of knowing that, parent and child, nothing will happen, right? You're always going to be my daughter. You're always going to be your son. I'm going to always be your mom or your dad. And we have a lifetime together anyway. Never mind lah, later lah. It's okay lah. And then when things get really tough, that's when they only kind of wake up and say, I really have to do something about it. So I can only help when they are ready. That's usually that point. And I don't want to push, and I'm all for helping you to get ready and all of that. But it also comes with the awareness that what would it mean to you? What would it mean to you? How much does this, how would it impact your life? Yeah. So that's kind of like the idea behind it. Yeah.
I think this is great because this parenting doesn't mean, right, you have to do everything right. And you mentioned it correctly. You don't need to be perfect. Sometimes it's doing that one or two things better, and it becomes a snowball effect. And just like the example that you gave where the young child talked about, I don't like the way you say this, and the mom being able to be open enough to listen, to process that, and then substitute that word in the point where the child learns to be able to develop that relationship, that better understanding, and even be more open. Like you mentioned, one example that you gave just now that I really like is like you have two people talking about the exact same thing to you. One of them you like a bit more than the other. Chances are you will listen more fondly to the one that you like, and the one that you don't really like that much is just making a lot of noise. So the fact that relationship is there, it stems from the ability to communicate, to relate, to be able to interact. And a lot of times parents have worry that they don't have that relationship. It's not that they don't have it. It's something that needs to be nurtured. It's something that needs to be developed. And like you mentioned just now, it's not something that click, it happens. It's something that you give the opportunity to start developing. Because by the end of the day, I really respect mummies and daddies that, you know, are giving themselves the opportunity to grow and to nurture the family, and the family starts with them. And I understand mummies, daddies are packed. The timetable that they have, the amount of responsibility they have, the amount of stress that they have. And wouldn't it be nice that you start reducing? Because a lot of times parents are like, what must I do to fix everything? No. Fix one thing. Focus on one thing. It's like removing one brick at a time, removing one obstacle at a time, allowing yourself to do just one small thing at a time. And I promise you, if you allow yourself to do one small thing, like one small change can make a very big difference in the long run. I'm not a big advocate for golf, but I love golf. The idea of golf is this thing. Sometimes, right, the ball that you hit could only be 1 millimeter off from you hitting the target of that hole. That 1 millimeter when you hit right now could have the ball ending up 200-300 meters difference at the end. Because the small change that you do right now grows tremendously throughout time. So the small little shift you do right now can make a very big impact later on. So one of the things is like, rather than reacting, you kind of like learn to compose and process the information and learn to communicate. That small change can result in a very big difference later on.
Correct.
So I'm a big advocate of that as well. I remember one of my students that used to be very angry, used to be like very, the parents' description is very violent. Then when you come to realize, it's not that the child is violent, it's just that the child model is like, back in the day, it's like when someone's upset, when something goes wrong, the reaction is, score, and to the child, score is very violent. So the child just model. To the point is like when the child is angry, the parent get angry, it just kind of like escalates both sides. But then when the child, when the parent realize this and it's like, okay, when my child gets angry, what should I do? Take a deep breath, don't do anything. Then the parent's like, huh? Just like that? Just try it. And the beautiful thing is, of course, it happened at home. The child did something, straight away reacted because the child already predicted the parent will react that way. And the parent surprised them by just being quiet. The child was a bit shocked. To the point, it's like, Papa, you okay? Papa, you okay? and then the papa kind of like had the opportunity to just share. He's like, boy, I'm a bit upset that you are doing this, but tell me why you do this, what happened? And they started to have a conversation that would have never happened if the father just exploded with the child. And that conversation opened up towards like, oh, Papa, I'm sorry, I made this mistake. I actually didn't want this to happen. To the point that relationships can be mended by small changes that you do in yourselves. And like you mentioned, it starts with us, because for you to change other people, you start with you first. Because the one true person that you can really be responsible for is you. There's this wise person that gave this strategy. It's called E plus R equals to O. The events is something that you'll never be able to control. But the way you choose to respond, the way you choose to look at certain things, the way you choose to process certain ideas, it's really up to you. It's yourself. And the outcome is yours. So that's an amazing part. And you know what? That one step that you shared, focus on you, communication, the relationship, powerful, love it, amazing stuff. And you know what? I understand it is not a one idea fix everything. And sometimes parents need to kind of like, you know, get some, how you say, questions answered. And I believe a lot of mummies and daddies have a lot of questions for you, because even if you answer all the questions in the world, it's always good to get clarity. Right? Yeah. So how can mummies and daddies, right, like reach out to you? Because I understand that they will definitely have questions like, okay, I like this thing. How would this be relatable for me? Because I think one of the things that you do very well is you allow parents to voice out, to share with you, and you actually personalize your ability to help them by picking up what is it that they want and giving them a particular set of process, and then you demonstrate with them, and then to allow them to go back home and do it. And how would parents be able to reach out to you to get this ball started?
So I've got a group on Facebook, surprise. So yeah, should I just say it out, or that the link?
Yeah, share it out. We will also put it in the link at the. We'll put it in the link box at the link area below. But you can just call it all out. So it's like, while they're listening, they can still type.
Right. So it's a bit long, but it's if you remember it in chunks, it's a lot easier. So it's raise them right.
Mm-hmm.
Parents with young children community. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I think it's an Asia community in there. Yeah.
But the beautiful thing is, right, it's exactly what mummies and daddies want. You want to raise them correctly. Because when you raise them correctly, the later years will be so much more easier. It's actually testament that I've seen. It's like, especially at the age of below 12 years old, in development psychology is one of the most important years, especially those 10, between 7 till 10. They call it the golden years, because it's a stage where it's not just a matter of them learning, it's also them testing. It's also testing what is morals correct, what is morals wrong. And it's a stage where they like to ask a lot of questions, not because they want to irritate parents. Like a lot of parents start to get irritated because when a baby is asking questions, "Mommy, why? Mommy, why?" You say, "Oh, so cute." But when you're like 9, 10 years old, "Mommy, why? Mommy, why?" Irritating. But their objective is because they truly want to understand and put points together. And at this stage, it's so important to nurture them properly. And that's exactly what we can explore doing even more. And you know what? I think for today's session, it's really great gems. I love all those things that you've been sharing. So much things that hit on the nail. I hope this won't be the last time we'll be doing this video. I hope we can do more. Mummies and daddies, if you have any questions that you want right now, right, just type in the comment section below certain questions that you have, or what are topics that you want us to talk more about. Like, you want us to focus on those that are like ages 7, 8, 9, 10, or would you like us to explore those that are in the age of like 12, like 13? It's like the stage where they're bridging over. That's also a very tricky age for some of the parents as well. I definitely have a fair share of working with children going through the change. That's when you realize that the fundamentals, if you have the fundamentals right, it makes things so much more easier.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think one last thing to tell all of the parents out there, whoever you are, where you're watching, whether you're watching this during your me time or wherever, the whole idea of this dialogue that Webster and I are having is not in any way telling you that you are doing something wrong. It's not in any way telling you that you have failed or you have, in fact, oh my gosh, did this. It's not. It's telling you, yes, number one, everybody else is also facing this, but not to go to the extent where, yeah, everybody else facing this, so it's like this one more. But the point here is that there changes can be made. It's definitely possible, but it has to start from us, from ourselves. So building upon what Webster was talking about when they go through that transitional age, I always tell the parents it's not so much about when they go to their teenage years. You don't want them to rebel, or you don't want them to kind of like drift apart or whatever. They will rebel. They will make mistakes. They will screw up. But how much have we built upon the 12 years before that? Is it strong enough for them to come back and tell us, "Mom, I made a mistake. I messed up. I need help"? Do you want them to be able to come to you for help despite their lowest points, or be fearful of what you might say and then hide it from you? So it's not so much like, I don't want them to rebel and then I'm so afraid of rebelling years and what will happen. Is they will. But how much do you have in that 12 years for them to be able to come back to you? That's what we're building for. That's what we're building every day for. Yeah.
Powerful. And that's exactly true, parents. A great mentor once reminded me that the word impossible actually means is made possible. It is up to us to make things possible for ourselves and our families. And we make mistakes along the way, which is perfectly fine. It shows that we are taking action. The question is, Do you want to have the same results, or do you want it to improve? And if you want it to improve, we improve. And when we improve, you see a different result. And we continue growing. This world, there is no one answer that fits all. It's all about growth. It's all about improving ourselves. And we continuously learn. And that's the beauty of it. Because if you have all the answers for everything, life won't be that interesting anymore. and that's the beautiful thing of seeing your children grow and to let them grow with you. So I hope this week's video has been able to help you in one small way or the other. It's definitely been a great opportunity for me to learn, because I'm a big believer that everyone can improve, and even me myself can improve. And as long as I continue to improve, I know that people around me would also grow as well. And that's why I'm so happy to have you, Dihan. Thank you so much for making time to be with us today. I look forward to actually doing another segment with you. Maybe we'll be able to get some comments from mummies and daddies out there, and we'll specifically focus on a particular one or those two comments. Yeah. And then after that, be able to help you guys even more. It's actually such a privilege, because every time when we do videos like this, we get feedback from mummies and daddies out there. And the beautiful thing is, it's not just a matter of parents saying thank you, but also being able to ask questions and to believe in us to give you guys more solutions. And I guess the more options we give, the more information we give, it gives you the more opportunity for you to make those changes and tweaks in your lives. So thank you so much for listening. Dihan, thank you so much for being with us today. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah. And before we go, guys, I would like to wish each and every one of you, be safe, be happy, and more importantly, stay awesome. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.